Imagine breathing ground glass while your own body devours your muscles from the inside out. You wake up on a morning in May 1783, but the sun no longer exists. The sky over Shinano province is a thick vault of lead and sulfur. You try to breathe deeply to ward off the panic. The air cuts through your throat like invisible blades. It is not dark fog, it is incandescent tephra. Millions of tons of pulverized rock and microscopic glass rain down on your small world. Every breath you take is a small internal mutilation. Your lungs bleed silently in the dark. Mount Asama has just exploded with an indescribable fury. Absolute darkness swallows the pine forests, the calm rivers, and the rice fields. You rub your eyes, irritated by the dust. The pain is immediate, tearing through your corneas. The morning silence is broken only by the macabre sound of heavy ash falling on the thatched roofs. A grey, thick and deadly rain. You are just a simple peasant of the Edo era. You live trapped in a rigid and ruthless social system. But the samurai order means absolutely nothing now. Biological chaos is just beginning to crawl. The water from the family well has a metallic and deeply bitter taste. You drink large gulps anyway. The thirst is unbearable and it burns. Your kidneys begin to fail slowly at that very moment. The volcano's invisible poison runs through your tired veins. You look perplexed at your hands covered in debris. True terror chills your spine. The emerald crops are submerged under a sterile mantle of death. There is nowhere to run or hide. The surrounding mountains form an impassable wall. You are locked in an open-air dungeon. Geographical isolation has sealed your fate. Absolute hunger will be your new ruthless master. You do not yet understand the full gravity of the disaster, but your body will soon begin an irreversible nightmare. It will consume its own flesh to postpone the inevitable. True agony lurks just beyond the dust. What will you do when the very air that keeps you alive begins to petrify your vital organs? You live in the mountainous heart of central Japan. This is Shinano province, a land of brutal beauty and deep valleys. Geography defines every aspect of your miserable existence. Volcanic soil has always been a treacherous blessing. It nourished the rice fields with rich minerals. You spent your days knee-deep in water. Exhausting work was the only currency for your survival. The towering mountains served as a natural fortress against invaders. But now those same mountains hold back the toxic cloud. You are trapped in a pressure cooker of ash. The winds cannot dissipate the glass dust. Tephra settles on leaves, blocking photosynthesis instantly. The millenary cycle of nature has been brutally interrupted. You walk through fields that once shone under the summer sun. Your feet sink into a grey, abrasive mud. The unseasonable cold penetrates your weak bones. The ash cloud blocked sunlight across the entire hemisphere. Global climate was altered in a matter of days. But for you, the apocalypse is intimately local. The crystalline water sources descending from the peaks are saturated with acid. Fish float dead with white eyes. Aquatic life was eradicated in the blink of an eye. You try to wash your face in a nearby stream. The water burns your skin like invisible embers. Extreme acidity dissolves the hope of your community. You'd remember Keeman, a 42-year-old neighboring farmer. He was a strong man with broad shoulders and an easy smile. Now Keeman coughs dark, thick blood onto the temple floor. He drank from the contaminated water of the Agatsuma River 2 days ago. You watch the despair in Keeman's feverish eyes. His kidneys have stopped working completely. His body swells with toxic fluids that cannot escape. You know he will not see the next dawn. His death is a dark mirror of your own future. How will you survive when the land itself becomes a vast open-air cemetery? Your daily routine was shattered into 1,000 grey pieces. Before the eruption, your days were marked by the steady rhythm of the sun. You woke up at dawn to cultivate the damp earth. The smell of freshly cooked rice filled the cold mornings. There was a silent dignity in your hard and honest work. Now, perpetual darkness dictates the rules of your nightmare. You and your family hide inside the small wooden cabin. The roof creaks under the crushing weight of the accumulated ash. You need to climb up every hour to sweep away the debris. If you fail, the roof will collapse and crush you all. The air outside burns your eyes and nostrils. You improvise masks with old, damp rags. The taste of sulfur never leaves your dry mouth. Keeman's story echoes in your terrified mind. His widow cries silently in the cabin next door. Keeman died in indescribable agony, drowned in his own body fluids. The wake was impossible to hold. There is no clean wood for the sacred funeral pyre. His body was left to rot under the dust. You realize that dignity in death no longer exists. Your family's food supplies are dangerously low. The remaining rice was contaminated by the pervasive volcanic dust. You try to wash the grains, but the water poisons them even more. You chew the acidic rice and feel the grit destroy your teeth. Stomach pain becomes a constant and cruel companion. The village children have stopped playing and crying. They are too weak to waste any energy. You look at your youngest son's arms. The skin is thin, almost transparent. The process of starvation has begun silently in your home. Every movement requires a monumental effort from your weakened body. Your daily survival has become a war against biology itself. But the horror growing in your empty stomach is only a fraction of your torment. What happens when the warlords knock on your door demanding what does not exist? You live under the iron rule of the Tokugawa Shogunate. Social order is maintained through draconian laws and absolute fear. You as a peasant are the foundation that sustains the samurai elite. Your sweat finances luxury castles and sharp swords. Taxes paid in grains of rice, the currency of life, but your fields are now deserts of crushed glass. The harvest was wiped out before it even sprouted. Common sense would say taxes would be forgiven in the tragedy. You cling to that fragile and naive hope. The shogun's magistrates arrive at your village on imposing horses. They cover their faces with fine silks against the ash. Systemic cruelty reveals itself in all its dark force. The decree is read aloud and without emotion. The rice quota must be delivered in full. There are no exceptions, no mercy, no delays. You hear the words and feel the ground give way. Giving up the little rice that remains means certain death for your family. Hiding the grains means public execution by samurai blades. You are squeezed between the fury of nature and the tyranny of men. Some neighbors try to argue, showing the destroyed crops. They are brutally beaten right there in the toxic mud. Red blood stains the ashen snow. You lower your head, swallowing the hatred and despair. The magistrate takes the last bags from your storehouse. They steal your children's lives in the name of the government. The silence in the village after they leave is deafening. Hunger ceases to be a fear and becomes a physical presence. You realize that the laws of men are worse than the fury of the volcano. The shogunate does not see you as a human being. You're just a number on an imperial scroll. Without grains to chew, your mind begins to look for unthinkable alternatives. How far will your morality resist when the gears of your own biology begin to devour your brain? The autumn of 1783 brings true hell to Earth. You have reached the absolute limit of human biology. For weeks, not a single grain of food has entered your stomach. Your body has begun the merciless process of autophagy. You are literally devouring yourself to keep your heart beating. The muscles in your legs have withered into thin strings. You feel your bones rubbing against each other with every trembling step. The entire village has succumbed to the macabre phenomenon of the living dead. Extreme malnutrition has destroyed the proteins in your blood. Without them, water leaks from your blood vessels into the tissues. The result is monstrous edema that disfigures your face and limbs. You are skeletal, yet parts of your body are swollen like balloons. Your skin is so tight that it begins to tear on its own. Open wounds ooze a clear, foul-smelling liquid. You boil poisonous fern roots in the hope of deceiving your hunger. The poison causes terrible hallucinations and violent seizures. You chew the hardened leather of your old straw sandals. The taste of dirt and sweat is your only banquet. The relentless cold freezes the corpses piling up in the dirt streets. No one has the strength to dig graves in the petrified soil. Madness settles in the empty eyes of the survivors. Human morality evaporates under the heat of extreme hunger. You see a mother weeping over her young son's body. The next night, the child's body has mysteriously disappeared. The final taboo was broken in the darkness of your neighborhood. Anthropophagy has become the last resort of the desperate. You smell meat roasting in a nearby hut. Your stomach rumbles violently at the profane scent. You fall to your knees, crying tears that no longer have moisture. Your soul is fractured, perhaps forever. How can you live with yourself if you take the next step toward the abyss? The Great Tenmei Famine devastated Japan for years on end. You survived, but an essential part of your humanity died forever. The sky finally cleared, but the scars on the earth are eternal. More than 300,000 souls perished from hunger, disease, and absolute despair. The ashes of Mount Asama altered the course of Japanese history. The Tokugawa Shogunate showed its true relentless and blood-stained face. Blind trust in the system was replaced by a deep and silent cynicism. You walk through the fields that are gradually becoming green and fertile again. Seeds sprout on rich soil, fertilized with the bones of your own neighbors. You carry the crushing weight of the impossible choices you had to make in the darkness. Nightmares visit your weary mind every night without fail. You still feel the metallic taste of ground glass on the tip of your tongue. The brutal phenomenon of autophagy left your body fragile and prematurely aged. You are a walking ghost in a world that desperately tries to forget the tragedy. The villages were rebuilt, but the silence between the residents is dense and guilty. No one ever dares to speak about the months when hell ruled the land. The memory of pots boiling nameless meats is an unbearable collective secret. You learned the hard way that civilization is just a thin layer of ice. When nature attacks with fury, the varnish of morality cracks instantly. Human biology will always prevail over the laws forged by vain men. Hunger is a wild beast that respects no emperors, gods, or honor. You look apprehensively at the dormant volcano on the cold and distant horizon. It breathes slowly, just waiting for the exact moment to wake up again. True darkness does not fall from the sky. It wakes up inside the human stomach when civilization collapses. Subscribe to the channel to continue witnessing the disturbing limits of our own history.